Hello, Chris. Welcome to our interview. And first of all, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. My name is Vinante Giovannini. You can call me Chris, of course. I'm the chairman of the Italian Conservatives Association. I'm also member of the executive committee of the Foreign and Commonwealth Conservatives Association. And before that, I used to organize events for the Green Room Club, that is a club for artists. I'm also a singer, so I used to organize events for artists in London, in the top places in London, in Millennium Hotels and various clubs. And I don't do that anymore, and I'm concentrating politics, and I still do my singing work, but I'm more concentrating politics with the Conservative Party.
Okay. Chris, we know that this year you have received the International Network Prize of the Big Ben Award. Would you like to say something about it?
Well, of course, I'm extremely honored about that, and I'm so glad that the executive committee chaired by Johnson Lee, they decided to give me this award. They followed my experiences, my events, or my achievements, that some of them, they are not even well known because I keep them for me, and maybe I'm going to mention some of them later to you. And so I'm very humbled, very happy about it, very happy. Yeah.
Congratulations. And how much do you know about the Big Ben Award?
Well, I was, last year, I was a guest. I was one of the person that introduced one of the awards for the new general director of SunPower, the company that bought House of Frasers. It was quite a big achievement by the Chinese community in the UK. So I was a guest on last year's Big Ben Award. It was a fantastic event, fantastic venue, very well organized. I remember all the videos and the pictures of the guests and the presenters, of course. The guests on the crowd was very impressed. That's why I'm very honored that this year I'm one of the awarded persons.
Yes, and so you mentioned that you took part in the award ceremony the last year. Do you have any suggestion about the ceremony, how to make it better in the future?
Well, my suggestion is keep it like this, the same standard. Of course, like as everything, even the Grammy Awards in Hollywood can be done better, but I think that Mr. Lee is doing a very great job. I'm organizing events like that, not at that level, but something like that for the Italian community. Will be guest. I introduced one of my best friends. She will receive an award from the Italian community for the Italian achievement. So I'm quite involved also in the Italian community for the same kind of event. And honestly, Mr. Lee is doing a great job.
Okay. Do you have any suggestion of the Big Ben Award of the development in the future?
For the ceremony, for the future, okay. I would like to say that the Executive Committee of the Big Ben Award is doing an extremely well done job for what I noticed. And of course, I can see the Chinese community in Europe getting wider and more, the presence of the Chinese businesses are getting wider. So also the Big Ben Award will become more popular and with the time. It's already very popular in London, very popular award. All my Chinese friends know about it, and still now when I mention them, I will be awarded. They say, "Oh, Chris, congratulations." They know very well the award. That is, and so, well, keep going like this and keep doing it.
Okay, thank you. And we know that you have done a lot for the Italian communities in UK. So would you like to introduce some information about the Westminster Italian Conservatives and also the interaction between the communities?
Well, now we go on why I have been awarded also for an international network, because one of my first jobs as founder chairman of the Westminster Italian Conservatives was to introduce the member of parliament of Westminster that now is actually the minister for Asia, and I introduced him to the Italian ambassador that they never had the occasion to meet, and we organized a very nice meeting at the Italian embassy, and they're still now good friends, and they go all over the world. Sometimes they met in various events, because now Mark Field, that is a representative of Westminster, the member of parliament for Westminster, is now minister for Asia, so he's often in China and all over Asia.
Yes.
So that's what was one of my first achievements for the Westminster Association. Now, what I'm doing now, that was 2 years ago. Now I'm organizing meetings between the representatives of the biggest EU citizen organizations in UK with the members of parliaments and with some ministers. We had a meeting a few weeks ago with the leader of the Westminster Council. We had a few meetings with members of parliaments, and that's what I'm involved to now.
Chris, what is the role of the owner, community member, and the campaign manager of the Foreign and Commonwealth Council? And what does this title do?
Well, I'm very proud of this title because the Commonwealth and Foreign Conservatives Council is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, association part of the Conservative Party ever done, and is some of their members. There have been ministers, secretary of states, and we did events. When the first event I went was with Philip Hammond, that now is the Secretary of State for Business, the number 2 of the government after Theresa May. That was the first event I was as a member, not as a member executive, but just as a member. And then I started to work with them, to help them, organizing events, because I'm quite good in events. And I've been selected as a member of a committee first, last year. Then this year I managed to get few guests for one event at the Carlton Club. Carlton Club is one of the most popular clubs in London for politicians. And then I proposed myself as, because I know that the organization has got many members that actually they live in central London, and I proposed myself like I can try to get in touch with them to get them involved in a campaign for the Conservative Party in the next election. And I was my proposal was very welcome, and the chairman, actually not the chairman, but the executive secretary proposed that to the chairman and to the president, and they said that it is very welcome, and so they gave me that title. And I also do a lot for events. I'm quite proud that Jacob Rees-Mogg, that is a very popular MP at the moment, accepted my invitation at an event that we'll have in the next couple of weeks at the Parliament, where you are invited, of course, and all of your colleagues, and it will be a great event.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So, do you think, are there any possibilities between the Westminster Italian Conservatives and also the organizer of Big Ben Award, British Chinese Youth Federation? The two organizations can do some cooperation in the future?
Yes, I'm very keen on that, and I also very keen with the Foreign and Commonwealth Council to do an event together, because it will be very appropriate, because of course China is member of the Commonwealth. And so we do often events with the Commonwealth Council. We had many ambassadors. Lately we had the ambassador of Sweden, we had the ambassador of Malaysia, I think. And we never had the ambassador of China. We had the ambassador of Poland, we have the vice ambassador of Germany lately this year. So it would be lovely to do an event in collaboration with the Big Ben Award, with the Youth Chinese Society, and the Commonwealth organization, with a member of the cabinet, a minister of the government, and the Chinese ambassador. That would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Good suggestion. And we know that the last year was Italian referendum. Yes, and you were interviewed by the Chinese TV station, and you have done a lot about it. So, what are the achievements at this moment?
Well, the referendum itself, it didn't work like I was hoping that it worked, because the referendum was the result of the referendum forced the Italian Prime Minister to step down.
Yeah.
So, but to be honest, the result was not. After the Prime Minister stepped down, some people, included me, was more pessimistic, and the things in Italy, honestly, from the political point of view, they're going quite well. They're not going great. There's not a great improvement, but they didn't get much worse than last year. So I'm quite happy about that, and especially I'm happy about that I've been interviewed by Phoenix TV, that I heard is one of the top TV in China with the CCTV and the Phoenix, and it was very popular in the evening news. I mean, the program is very popular, and in the evening news in China, there's many people following the UK Chinese community. And so for me, it was a great honor to be part of the news that evening. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. So, would you like to say something about the relationship between Italy and China in the future? What do you think the trends will be?
The trends will be great, because in the last few years, I know for certain, also because my church godfather is working for a Chinese company in Italy, for Wanda, and is working for this Chinese company. So I always talking with him about what the Chinese business is around Europe, and I know that few of the most important football clubs has been bought in Italy by a Chinese company. Of course, Wanda bought the biggest media company, which my godfather is one of the top directors, and this media company is also one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in Europe. Yeah. And so I think that the Chinese way to do business must be followed long time. And I spoke about it also with the Home Secretary of State here in England about the Chinese way of doing things, that we need to look more at them, because it is now, you know, Europeans, Italians, British, when we look at the United States, but looks like that in the last few years, the Chinese culture and economy went better and to higher level than what the last few years American culture and business went. That's what I think. So especially I like the way that the Chinese government is checking out internet. So now is a big problem here in Europe, because in internet there are, for example, they teach people how to make a bomb. And these things never happen in China, because some people control what you put, especially in YouTube and things like that. Cannot be things like that. So the many things that. And today I know is the conference of the Communist Party in China, and I was following this morning the news. It looks everything very impressive.
So, would you like to say something about the relationship between UK and China in the future?
Well, between UK and China, of course, I'm aware that one of the landmarks of UK, that is House of Frasers, is now owned by the SunPower company. That is a Chinese company, and I know that they open a House of Fraser in Nanjing, yeah.
Yes.
And I was invited, but I couldn't make it, unfortunately. I couldn't make it. And so I believe that England, that now will have to maybe to check, and little bit would be more difficult to have business with some European countries because of Brexit. Just a little bit. It would be some more regulation. So I believe that it would be keen to have more business with China and other Asian countries.
Okay. And for Great Britain, Chinese and Italian, we are minorities. We are foreigners of this country. So do you have any suggestion about the minorities who live in UK in the political policy side?
We're actually the majority in the minority,
Yes.
because like ethnic groups is the Indian ethnic groups, and then is the Polish now, and then Italians and Chinese. I think they're there, the third or fourth, but I think there are many more Chinese second generations as there, but probably there are much more Indians. But anyway, we are the majority on the minority, and the relationship between, you mean the relationship between the Italian community and Chinese community, or the both communities with the UK community?
I mean the British political policies to the minorities.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Britain has been always the most welcome country in Europe for the other countries, international people. And maybe you don't know, but Chinatown, before being called Chinatown, used to be called Little Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, then I don't know exactly why, but the Italians sold all the properties. They started moving outside.
Should be 100 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and so they have been always very, very welcome with the Chinese, with the Indians, of course also because the colonies that England had in China, especially in Hong Kong until a few years ago. And so the relationship between the Commonwealth countries has been great. So that's why also England has been, and UK has been one of even the most powerful country in Europe, because always been welcome to have people and exchanging cultures and business.
Okay, and this year there's some terrorist attacks in UK, so which makes the situation not very good. Especially some press said it is not safe in UK anymore, and the result is some people they are afraid of taking part in the ceremony of the Big Band Award this year. So how do you think about this part?
Well, I've been in London Bridge. I saw in person, I was there in person. I saw the people in the street. Yeah. I heard the gunshots, and I was part of the people who has been evacuated. So I saw the London Bridge attack in person, and it was quite a shock. But I must say that if you check the statistics, it's more a risk that you have in a car accident that you you're getting involved in a terrorist attack. So I must say to everyone that is scared to come in England for that is not a reason. The fact is, a car accident is not going to get in the news worldwide. So because I was there, all the Italian TV station contacted me. They wanted an interview just because I was there. I was all over the Italian news. My mom, she said to me, she said, "I'm fed up to see you on TV because you're always," but because a terrorist attack is getting a worldwide attention, a car accident doesn't get that. But every day is a car accident in UK with people dying, but it's not every day a terrorist attack. So of course, I understand that somebody can be a little bit alarmed to come in London, especially using the underground. But the statistic doesn't say. You should be more scared to get the car and go in the motorway.
Yeah. And at this moment, and the British government, they are trying their best to deal with the Brexit situation. So how do you think of the policies of the Conservative Party in Brexit this part?
Yeah.
And after this Brexit, what is the relationship between UK and Italian and UK and China?
Well, I'm quite involved in the Brexit, not in the negotiations, of course, of the government, but I'm involved in try to connect the EU associations in UK and the member of the governments. I've been doing that quite a lot in the last few months. And I believe that the government, anyway, is doing a great job. Just today, I received, as hundreds of thousands, I think a couple of millions of EU residents received an email from Theresa May. Of course, not a personal email, but a template one, that with the confirmation of the EU rights, that she ensured again, as she did that before, in Florence, actually, in Italy. She did by writing this lovely letter that she confirming that the rights of EU residents that are actually at the moment in UK, they will be guaranteed all the rights that they have now. So I'm quite happy of what the government is doing. Of course, looks like it's going to be a long negotiation, not just for the rights, but more for the big problem will be the economy, I think, to get the right deal, of course, with the EU states, because what the EU doesn't like, the idea that the UK is going out of the common market and get the same privilege. So it doesn't make sense to them that. So it probably will be more regulation and some more taxes to import-export between UK and Europe. That's why you're coming as a Chinese community, that you can get advantage on that, because it is much more complicated now, an import-export between China and UK. So maybe you will get some evaluation in that way. I will be happy about that.
Yeah, I hope so. And we have the last question. How much do you know about Chinese culture?
Well, sometimes I really think it's a joke that I had some parents that now are dying that has been living in China or married with some Chinese lady, because everywhere I go in Chinese events or every time I meet Chinese people, I feel very welcome, and they always like me a lot. And so I asked my mom to check out the tree, the family tree. She doesn't want to do that, so I will have to do. And I asked her if I had any parents that went in China for business and lived there or moved there, or they had the Chinese relationships. She said that she doesn't know, but I will investigate that, because I feel every time I go to a Chinese event, I feel like at home.
Yeah. And we know the Italian gentleman, he is quite famous in China. He's Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
Yes. And do you think, are there anything can do the cooperation between UK, China, and Italian, the three countries in the culture side? And of course, how about this in London? What kind of cooperation can do between the two countries, the two communities?
Well, the story of Marco Polo is very fascinating, because in that period, China was a very closed society, and it was very difficult to have business in the Silk Way, the Silk Road, to have business with the Chinese community. There was few Europeans going back with some, and one of them was the father of Marco Polo, that with his young son, went there, and they did something wrong. So he's been arrested with his group, and he said, I will go in Europe and come back and pay you back my debts, and I leave you my son here as insurance. And Marco Polo then stays there and become like member of the Chinese real court. Was one of the advisors of the the Kublai Khan, I think was that period, the Khan of that period. And that's fascinating because was the only one European, he was Italian, and he became member of the Chinese society, and still now is the most famous member of the Chinese society ever, I think.
Yes. I think maybe something can done between Italy, China, and the UK because there's one belt, one road. Yeah. There is project, so I think we can think about it. Such as it is that the pizza used to be changed from the Chinese Chinese rice cake or something like that. Maybe we can do something about it in the future.
Well, we have so many things in common. I know that.
Spaghetti, Chinese noodle.
Yes, some people say that probably maybe Marco Polo or somebody like him went in China and then came back to Italy and let's do this kind of food and let's call them spaghetti, but they actually come from China, and I would not be surprised. I'm sorry that I heard that there's been done some questions in the two Chinese teenagers about where pizza come from, and the answer that is coming from America. That's probably because Americans make a much bigger business about pizza than Italians. That's for sure is Italian.
Okay, and thank you so much, Chris. Today you come to our interview, and we are looking forward to meet you in the ceremony.
Thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure.
You.
See
Thank
you
you.
at the ceremony, the Big Ben Award.
Okay, thank you.